Hi everyone and welcome to the Bookkeepers Podcast. Today I am joined by Ian Phillips, who is the UK head of partner sales for Xero. And as you know, our podcast is sponsored by Xero, and what we really wanted to do is showcase the people behind the software and get to know them better. So Ian, hi and welcome.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Joe. It's lovely to be here.
It's so nice to see you. Ian, do you want to give everyone a little bit of an idea about who you are, what you do at Xero, and your journey with Xero?
Yeah, sure. So we'll start with where I am now. So I'm head of partner sales. So I guess the partner channel is incredibly important to Xero for, I think, a few reasons. One is because accountants and bookkeepers are genuine trusted advisors. So that means that when they ask their clients if Xero might be a good idea, then they tend to prick up their ears and pay attention. But the other is I feel like we have like a genuine partnership. The idea should be that when we're working with bookkeepers, for example, it's not just their clients that benefit, it's them as well from the kind of enhanced service offering that they can start to create. And that's why we kind of invest a load in wraparound support in our partner channel. It's incredibly important to us, and part of that support is account management. And I've got 7 teams of account managers based throughout the UK who are looking after our lovely bookkeepers and accountants all over the UK.
So a question about that, as somebody that's had account managers over the years, what is the best way that a bookkeeper or an accountant as a practice owner can get the most? Like how do people utilize their account managers to get like the best value from them?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing to say is we're not perfect, and we've definitely suffered in the past from staff turnover and that sort of thing. So I just want to get that out there and acknowledge that that is the case. But I also think that great account management is a two-way street. So that probably means that for if you're a bookkeeper talking to your account manager, to be willing to share what you're trying to achieve, so that we can then align the support that we provide to that. I think like I'm I'm a I'm a salesperson, but I think that sales is often misinterpreted. I don't think sales should ever be about saying to somebody, hey, you should buy something that you don't want or need. It should be about helping people to perhaps recognize that they have a need or a pain point that they didn't realize and that there's an answer out there. And then supporting them along that journey of buying and enabling and embedding, in this case, software.
Yeah, and I think it's so right. It is a two-way street. I think we hear a lot of the time. I think that's one of the biggest things that we try and teach is that, it's about taking responsibility. Stop blaming other people. I know with my first account manager for Joe Wood Virtual FD, I had my partner like set up, but I hadn't really started my business, and he reached out to me like clockwork once a quarter for about 18 months before I ever reached back out to him. And then he became such an amazing resource in my business. But when I realized that it was down to me as well to pick up the phone, it was down to me to book in a call and actually schedule some time. And this is why we need to get away from always being in the business doing the work, is because this is really important, because your account manager will know what you've got in your arsenal of software, what you've got and what you're not utilizing, and open your eyes. I know that I've always said I'm 100% Xero practice, but I was using about 20% of the functionality a lot of the time, because things change and it's hard to keep up to date with everything. So having that relationship with your account manager and letting them be part of your journey and really sharing open and honestly, this is my goal, and not thinking, well, they're only going to sell me this, that, and the other, because that is not they want to help you get there. So yeah, in the future, your account with them will be bigger, but let them in, let them see what you're doing. I think that's so important. So Ian, you started off as an account manager, and how long have you been with Xero?
So 8 years in September. So I think that makes me a bit of a veteran, certainly in the UK, Joe. There aren't many of us that have been around for that long. And it's interesting the point that you were making there. I think when I was an account manager, one of the things that I quickly realized is that you occupy this quite privileged position because bookkeepers, accountants don't have the time to constantly network with other peers, whether that's locally or nationally, and that's all that account managers do, right? That's all that they do. And I think that my job now is partially to empower account managers with the confidence that they've got a load of value to add from those conversations that they might have in the morning, which may actually be kind of useful to the person that they're speaking to in the afternoon. But anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. So I started 8 years ago, and I'm trying to remember how many people were in the UK now. Then I think it was about 90, and we're up to the sort of 500 or 600 mark now.
Wow.
So my final interview was with Gary Turner. So nice. I think that stopped sometime after that, and I just felt so incredibly fortunate when I joined Xero because my background was in new business development. So I'd worked for a legal software company. I had worked for BPP, and I guess that what struck me immediately is people wanted to talk to me, and that's again quite a privilege for an account manager or a salesperson. I think to myself, oh gosh, like I'd have to call 100 people to get one meeting in some of these previous roles, and yet as soon as I was announced as the account manager for the region, I suddenly had like 10 emails saying please come and meet us, and I thought, wow, this is like what has Xero managed to create here? And I guess that combination of a great product in the right time in a marketplace that kind of understood broadly what we were trying to achieve, and then that community, which you've been a big part of as well, Joe. It was really exciting, but it was also a little bit like the Wild West at times, because we were growing at such an extraordinary rate that you don't always have the kind of systems and processes to back up the work that you're doing. So I think I was also quite fortunate in that that's probably how my mind works. I like process and I like consistency, and I had to create that for myself. And then as we started to scale the sales team, it was kind of natural that I moved into a management position and then a head of position for field sales. And then I took on, all of the inside account managers about 18 months ago.
Wow, that's a journey. And it's so interesting you say that, because I've had a few conversations with bookkeepers this week where they're growing rapidly, like rapid. I don't know, something's in the water at the moment. There's some rapid growth going on, and actually it's rapid growth can be just as difficult, just as hard as really slow growth. Like they both bring their own issues, and and money can run out just as quickly with rapid growth as it can with slow growth. So it's really interesting that, our software providers, we're all businesses. It doesn't matter what offering is going on. We all have the same issues. And account managers, you saying that about the fact that, they are talking to our peers. They're talking to the people using exactly the same software as us. And they may have some insights, or even if they share that someone else that they spoke to today is going through exactly the same thing as you are, it just feels like, it's just nice to feel that there are other people in the same boat, or maybe there are some insights there. It's not just about, don't think that, I honestly never thought speaking to my account manager was about, and I never have had that feeling, was about getting more licenses, because I knew that I didn't need them. I was fine. But of course they want to help me grow. Like they're business development managers in your team. Utilize them I've always said this: if you're a one-man band, you're not a one-man band. You've got loads of people around you, you're just not utilizing them. And your account managers are definitely can make them part of your team. Have a quarterly meeting, have a monthly catch-up, whatever it is that you need to do. Get them. I used to get my Xero account managers to basically hold me accountable to my growth. I said, right, this is what I'm doing. Right. And he said, I'm going to check in. He used to send me like the odd business book or whatever. It definitely felt like he was part of the team. So I really think there are better ways. And it shows that the fact that you've been in this business for so long and the development and the growth you've had shows that you've seen the values, the culture and everything in the business. It definitely, I don't have a practice anymore, but I know as a practice owner, it was so helpful to have someone that had similar culture values as me in a team that hadn't grown yet, which was great. Let's talk about some of the things that Xero does. Lots of us in our community, in the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club, I reckon we're 85% like Xero. There's a lot of Xero, or there's a lot of people using Xero and something else, or they will definitely have come across a business that's using Xero. Like it's just the thing. But I like to go over some of the basics about the efficiencies in Xero that could be used, because you don't know what you don't know. And there might be someone here that's studying, learning about becoming a bookkeeper or training to be an accountant, and they're learning things about T accounts, they're learning about debits and credits, but what does it look like in the real world? How are people utilizing software? What are the efficiencies? Maybe you've been using it for years, but like me, you were only using a small amount. Let's talk about some of the things that Xero can do to help your practice be more efficient. So should we get started with a big one? Bank feeds. What is different? Why is Xero so good with bank feeds?
So I think that it was interesting. Back 8 years ago, that was still a time where certain banks wouldn't really give us the time of day. But I think we have been through quite the journey with both API-driven bank feeds from challenger banks, but then also open banking, which just means like the availability and efficiency is fantastic. And I was like, I'm pleased to hear what you said about the growth that you're hearing from bookkeepers. We released our UK industry performance report a few weeks ago, and that kind of story is reflected in the figures. I keep on hearing people saying there's no shortage of work, which is like a great problem to have, but I guess what you need is both the staff and processes to be able to capitalize on that increase in demand for bookkeeping services. And for me, like most of the well, first of all, I want to just give a massive plug for just the concept of regular bookkeeping, because like ultimately the output of Xero and using it effectively is data, right? It's live data, which enables you to make decisions looking through the windscreen rather than the rearview mirror. But you just don't get that if you don't bookkeep regularly. And I think that in that performance report, there is some really good news around the fact that we're above 50% in terms of cloud penetration in accounting and bookkeeper clients in the UK now. Probably still behind some markets, but ahead of others if you take a global perspective. But I think when it comes to that kind of efficiency aspect, a load of the inefficiency for me is at the front end of the bookkeeping process. Is like how do you capture data from clients and then process it efficiently, and I guess one of the things that was quite surprising to us, and this I should say this is like survey data rather than product data, so this probably applies to different cloud platforms, not just Xero, but only 37% of clients have a bank feed connected. And when you think that is like pretty fundamental functionality, and just so beneficial. And I know that bank feeds go wrong sometimes, and that sort of thing, but we have like pretty reliable and pretty broad coverage. It feels like we, as in Xero, have got a job to do to kind of educate people, and they're free as well, right? I'm sure you remember the time, Joe, when you had to pay for them. So it feels like there's like a no-brainer kind of optimization piece there that people could easily get stuck into.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's so interesting. And this is the thing, isn't it? When you're in the echo chamber, of being surrounded by like the best bookkeepers and accountants in the industry, we just assume, of course, you've got a bank feed. Why are we talking about bank feeds? It's 2023. Like, geez. But in reality, this is why we've got so much work to do. There is so much work out there because there are so many clients, business owners that are not clients, that are out there still using out-of-date software, if software at all, still using spreadsheets, still utilizing Word to raise an invoice. These kind of things still happening. I think sometimes because our client bases are, doing what we assume that everyone's doing it, and there's so much education that needs to still be done. And I do remember, goodness, the first bank feeds, and asking a client, is it okay? It's gonna, the amount of time it would have saved us from entering in every single line on a bank statement. God, I don't even remember really even utilizing CSVs at the beginning or anything like that. You just got in the habit of just copying, and no wonder, the bookkeepers, we have changed. We used to be data entry. We don't do much of that anymore. So much more to be done.
Yeah, and I think there's also like a staff and talent angle here, right? Because for those people that are employing, and I think we're very conscious at Xero that there's a bit of a crisis in bookkeeping and accountancy at the moment. Who on earth wants to do this kind of data entry, particularly younger people entering the profession that just have expectations about what technology can do for them. So I think as well as the efficiency piece and the client service piece, it's like, well, if you want to get people, you've got to make sure that you're not kind of filling their time with mundane tasks.
Absolutely, because I just thinking about my daughter. She's just started a media course at college, and they asked her to go away and film some content for a vlog. But she's 17. She's got a phone, so she filmed the content. She edited the content, added music, did everything all off of an app. Got back to college and said, "Oh, I've done it." And they went, "Oh no, you were meant to edit it all on our desktop computers with our software." And she's like, "But I just downloaded something from the App Store and for free and just did it." And that's what we're dealing with. That's the new workforce. They're looking for shortcuts. They know that there's a quicker way and a faster way to do things. They're not going to hang around and wait for the old school methods of doing things.
Yeah, and I also think they and this is true of everyone. I think they want purpose in their work, and it's not exactly fulfilling to sit there typing up bank statements into a spreadsheet.
No, absolutely. And like you say, Ian, yes, we can focus on the fact sometimes a bank feed might mess up. It's less and less and less and less. And obviously, and I know that our friends in Ireland still we still hear about what it's like not to have a bank feed. That's difficult. So we are so lucky. So let's make sure we're utilizing. Let's keep talking. Let's keep having those conversations on our social media and things. It's not like 30. Did you say 35% of even people that are using Xero aren't linked up? That's not all the people that aren't using Xero. So there is still so much work to do. So making sure that you're utilizing your bank feeds as much as possible and keep on talking about it. Absolutely. Data capture, Xero has HubDoc for data capture. And I know in the past, Dext is seen as the pinnacle, the North Star as such. how has Xero been, because obviously HubDoc is free, so there's the benefit there, but what are, we have to weigh up as business owners the efficiencies of the data capture to actually having, and paying for software and having a free software, which maybe might take us more time. What has there been developments with HubDoc since, in the recent months, years?
Yeah, so we do have a team. They're based in Canada, working on, I guess, some shorter term stuff and some longer term stuff, and a lot of it is around like accuracy of extraction. I think the way that you described HubDoc versus Dex there is pretty spot on, to be honest, Joe. I just, with my Xero hat on, I don't care what data capture software people are using. Like, Dex is a fantastic product. It's definitely got much richer functionality than HubDoc. Similarly, it's similar to like invoice reminders. Like, invoice reminders exist within Xero, but if you have got like a big problem with credit control, like Chaser is an amazing product. But I'm going to throw another stat at you now. I was going to ask you to guess, but that would be unfair. But 31% of clients are using data capture software, and again, given you do have free options within core kind of general ledger bookkeeping products, and given it is such a powerful time saver, that feels pretty low. So I think there's like another optimization opportunity there, whether it's investing in Dex or using some of the kind of free but less feature-rich functionality that exists within Xero.
Absolutely. And again, I mean, Ian, you're just giving us bookkeepers all of this social media content that we can be talking about. We need to keep going back to the basics, back to the things that we assume all of those businesses, small business owners, we assume that they take in photos of receipts on their phone, and we assume that, like, why wouldn't they? But they don't understand it. They don't understand why they need to be keeping receipts and things anyway. So it feels like we're banging our heads against a brick wall, doesn't it, saying these things? But there are people out there that need to know it. Yeah,
well, I mean, there's some good news in there for early adopters, right? So, and I've always found that when I talk to early adopters, they don't realize how far ahead they are, because they're looking through the windscreen, not the rear view mirror, and they're like, what next? But like, I guess there's an argument in there to say this stuff is still a differentiator, right? If only 31% of clients are using data capture, and that's something that you use with your clients, well, guess what? Like, you're still ahead in the adoption curve. So that's maybe something to shout about.
100%, 100%. I'm loving all the stats, Ian. Keep giving them to us, because I think it's I think it really helps to paint the picture that we are all looking through our own lenses, and you assume that everyone's just like you. And I say this all the time in the success lounge that we have with our membership. People come in and they see other people doing so well, so they assume that they're doing badly. And I'm like, you've got no idea how many people are behind you that haven't even thought about half the things. Like, so it's just the kind of people we are. So we're always moving forward. We are entrepreneurs, and like you say, we're thinking what's next, rather than realizing that the other entrepreneurs out there haven't even started. They're not even on step one.
I always say the downside to having a growth mindset is you're never really happy.
No, so true. It's never done. It's never. You've never arrive at this destination. It's just it's a pit stop along the way. Brilliant. So I am part of the Xero Partner Advisory Council, and there's been lots of conversations recently about payment services. Do you want to just talk us through what a payment service is and how Xero are implementing more of this?
Yeah, and this is probably less about practice efficiency and more about client service and client efficiency. Also, well, let me start with a couple of stories from my life, right? So last year I went to the Bristol Harbour Festival. I live in Bristol, and there was a big area in the centre which was like fenced off, and you had to queue to get into it, and it contained a load of food stalls. And I was with my daughter, and we queued up, went in, and there was a big stall selling brownies. And she said, brownies. And I said, okay, we'll get you a brownie. And then I got to the front of their queue, and it said cash only. And I thought, oh, you probably paid, what, 25 grand for this pitch or something like that. And I had none with me, and I certainly wasn't going to go out and get any and queue again to get. So I think that's one example of a kind of missed sales opportunity by not using payments technology. So in that instance, they could have had a payment machine like Zettle or Square to take those payments, and probably would have taken more business as a result, and that can flow through into Xero. So you're not spending hours cashing up and counting grubby money that people have been passing from person to person. Another example of this. So a few months ago, one of my team was going on a training course, and I was booking it for them. I had budget, I had sign off. And they sent an invoice, and I said, can I pay on a card? And they said, no, it has to be bank transfer. And I thought, so we have like this kind of ancient purchase requisition. This is an embarrassing thing to admit for Xero, but we have this like ancient purchase requisition system. So I had to go and get something raised. I had to get it signed off by my boss, despite the fact I had sign off to do it. They had to be set up as a supplier, so they had to answer a bunch of questions. They probably missed a payment run, and eventually it was all signed off, and then they probably got paid like 30 days later or whatever. And I was ready to pay them on a card there and then, and I just think that's like one tiny example of like some of the cash flow issues that could be alleviated by people attaching something like Stripe to their invoices so that they take immediate payment by credit, debit card, Apple Pay, whatever, or something like Go Cardless if they're taking more regular direct debit payments. And the adoption of these tools is still pretty low. So 30% of clients, and I just think like almost any vertical sector that I can think of would benefit from this. So yeah,
and ourselves as businesses, have we as a practice got that in place for ourselves? Like Go Cardless, Stripe, it's or whatever the service is. Like, how are your clients, how are you making it easy for people to pay you? Because it's exactly that, Ian. People want to pay us, and I think about in the past when I used to get I used to have big, I actually bought in Chaser at one point when I was charging by the hour, raising invoices once a month at the end of the month for service, for hours that I've already spent on the work. And then people wouldn't pay me. And I'd be like, I'd be so cross and angry, blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't making it easy for them to pay me because I was, sending them an invoice, and then I might send them a statement. But, and then they've got to set you up, and then they've got payment runs, and it's just like, make it easy. So like I get people to sign direct debits. So I raise the invoice, the payment's taken. Like, it's simple. And that's the other reason why not stopping charging an hourly rate, so that it's not a different amount every month. And it's going to be the same. They've agreed to what you're going to be charging monthly. So a direct debit works. But then if you look at, so firstly, I always think, we've got to put ourselves first, oxygen mask on first, like look at your practice and how you're running your business. You're offering business services to somebody. Are you running a good business? So look at yours first. And then like, look at your clients, just one at a time. How are they bringing their money into the business? How are they quoting? Do they get a deposit? Do they do the service first and then get paid? Like, we are not in comparison with the other bookkeeper accountant down the road. We've got the other businesses that we're in comparison like Just Eat and Domino's, and like, do people let you have the food, try it, eat it, and then you pay afterwards? No. I had this the other day with someone was going to stop paying one of their monthly fees, and they wanted a refund for the previous 6 months. I'm like, do you get Netflix for 6 months and say, well, I didn't really use you, so I didn't watch a film, so can I have my money back? Like, it's a different era that we're in. So I think a review and audit of your clients and what an amazing, valuable service that is, to say, do you know you could get paid quicker? I can help you with that. Amazing.
Yeah, I think like in amongst that is also like just an amazing general piece of advice, which is get to know your client base. I like this expression, a helicopter view, right? So I think that if you take the example of rolling out software, people are sometimes inclined to just deal with whatever client happens to be under their nose at any particular time, and they might not be the best person to speak to initially. But if you start to look down on your client base, perhaps put them in pots. I heard someone yesterday talking about A's, B's, C's, and D's, and that sort of thing. Then you can start to make much more kind of strategic decisions about what you're doing with whom and who you want to do more with, and maybe who you don't want to do anything with.
Absolutely, and that's why we love like the power of having like specific niches in your business. It doesn't always need to be industry, but it might be mindset, people that are willing to have this conversation, willing to be open to new ways of bringing money into their business and quicker. Absolutely. So talking about like, getting money in quicker means that if we can produce and service our clients quicker and turn work around quicker, it tends to mean that clients are happier, they're sticky, they stay with us, we get that rapport, relationship building. And for us as practice owners, it really comes down to our systems and processes, the workflows that are going on in the business. And Xero, if we're using Xero, is a big part of that. But there will be other things as well. There'll be other things that are going on that need to make a client happy. You can use, like you say, there's loads of things you can do in Xero, and actually it does so much more, and usually you're paying for all of these services. And I know that some people go and will add on other things and then not realizing that they can do, might be fit for purpose what's in Xero. Might not be, but you can pick and choose. How does Xero help with connecting workflows across your whole practice?
Yeah, I genuinely think we are on the verge of quite an exciting new era with this stuff, because we had like the old world where if you're using software in any kind of practice, you probably need to invest a load of money in some desktop software built around a central database. And like the advantage of that is that it all talked to each other, but you probably wouldn't describe it as best of breed, and it clearly wasn't cloud-based, which is going to limit your ability to offer things like flexible working and that sort of thing. I think the era that we're coming out of is where you've got like best of breed tools that don't necessarily interact with each other amazingly. So I think there's been some great innovation in the UK around practice management and proposals and all of that kind of stuff. And I think we're finally getting to a place where some of that stuff is really starting to be gelled together through the power of APIs. So I think thinking about your practice like you are trying to create a pot of data, and you need to get that through the door and processed and into the pot as quickly and efficiently as possible is probably a really good way to think about it. And then thinking about every kind of email to a client to chase them for data, every piece of paper, every time that you have got to transfer data from one system into another is like a point of friction, is quite worthwhile at the moment, because I think we're starting to get to a point where there are like, you've got like Ignition and Go Proposal doing great things in the like proposal space. You've got tools like certainly for slightly bigger firms, like things like FYI Docs doing like really exciting things, not just around document management, but around automation and collecting client data. Then if you do delve into year-end compliance, you've got Xero Tax, which is developing a really kind of neat rate. And you start to kind of get to a world where you can envisage like that flow of data through your firm without those points of friction. And I think that's quite exciting.
Yeah, it is. I think that's the thing. It's again about every time. I had a business coach once that said this to me, that every time there's a problem, every time that you find yourself firefighting, don't go into it going, oh God, this again. Go into it, how do I put this fire out once and for all and it never happens again? So be like really curious and looking for those friction points, looking for the times when things just aren't flowing. It's like, oh, someone's asking you again, did you do that? Did you do that? And you're like, yeah, I did that. Why do you not know that? All of those things just, and this is why, as business owners, there is so much to do that is not the actual work to help the flow of these things. Now, when it's just you on your own, all of this stuff flows in your head nicely. But it means you can't have a holiday, can't go sick, can't enjoy Christmas, all of that stuff. If you want to have enough money to, if you've got, maybe you don't need the money, it's not about that, and that's fine for you, and you can get to create whatever business you want. But when you do have a team, we're knowing this now actually with Six Figure Bookkeeper, we've been running our business on WhatsApp. Basically, we've just been having conversations, and I'll do that because it's not a practice. It's not the same as like bookkeeping in and getting it processed and out. It's different. And so we're like, oh yeah, we just have this conversation, just do this. Now we're like, oh my goodness, where did I miss that voice note? And where did I miss that? And rather than going, oh, this is really annoying and it's everyone else's fault, we just go, right, okay, how are we gonna make this smooth? Where's the information coming from? Where's the flow? My favorite thing is like a bit old-fashioned, really old-fashioned, nice big bit of like wrapping paper, Christmas paper, and a packet of Post-it notes, and like just writing down everything and slapping it all down, and then going, right, what happens first? What's the bit? And that help. I have to do that in order to then use the software to like, I have to mind map it out. And I know it's old-fashioned, but it works for me.
Well, you're bang on. So we talk about this in sales and business development, because you'll often have this situation where you're like, how do we get people using the CRM, right? And when you're just using it as a repository of information, it's not actually that powerful for an individual. But if you can start to say, well, this is the process that we follow, and the software is mapped to that, then that's where people buy into this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so powerful. So if somebody's, maybe they're using Xero for their client base, got a few clients, and they are thinking like, maybe they've got some data capture, maybe they're using HubDoc and things like that. Where would you go with for workflows in Xero? Because this is, so if we just go with like Xero, you've got Xero, well, we used to call it Xero Green, Xero Blue, but you've got My Xero, you've got Xero HQ, you've got Xero Practice Manager. Like, whoa, it's big. It's a big beast, isn't it? Where would someone if you're paying for Xero every month, you get all of these things. Where's the workflows happen in Xero?
So I think, I mean, the best advice I would give to someone in that situation is speak to your account manager. We have in the background an amazing team of partner consultants who are usually people with practice experience who can start to do some of that work of mapping out what your workflows look like. But yeah, in product terms, I think the way that I would map it out is you kind of need to probably focus on kind of bookkeeping initially, and making sure that your kind of workflows are efficient, from data capture to kind of, submitting a VAT return or trial balance or whatever. And then you can start to optimize that. I guess if you're getting involved in the compliance, I'd probably start with accounts production, corporation tax next, and then I would look at practice management. But sort of sprinkled amongst that is our ecosystem app. So if you're looking at bookkeeping, you shouldn't just look at Xero. You should look at HubDoc or Dex at the same time. If you're looking at practice management, it's not just about looking at a practice management solution. It's what are we doing to bring clients through the door? How are we tracking time? How are we managing those relationships with clients and marketing to them and all of that kind of stuff.
It's that, so you start to build this, when you understand the workflows, then you can kind of build your app stack around the workflows. Absolutely. So before we wrap up, I just want to talk about the fact you mentioned to me before we come on about the difference between digitization and transformation. Just take me through that.
Yeah, this is a bit of a bandwagon I'm on at the moment, so I'll apologise for that up front. So I guess digitization is the idea of taking existing processes and making them digital, right? And I think that you could argue that that is a legitimate step on the way to digital transformation. So let's take the example of somebody that shows up to their bookkeeper once a quarter, hands them a bunch of manual records, and the bookkeeper says, okay, well, rather than processing this on a spreadsheet, I'm going to start to use Xero. I'm going to input the information. Maybe I'll use HubDoc to scan it or whatever. And that is that's fine, but I guess the thing that I would stress to both my colleagues at Xero and to bookkeepers who are listening to this is that's not what we're in this for. What we're in this for is to transform the relationship with the small business, and we exist to help small businesses to thrive. And I genuinely believe that you will only do that if you start to get them interested in their numbers. I think you will only get them interested in their numbers if they are having some sort of interaction with the product. So even if that's just raising invoices, they are, and they've got access to their dashboard so that they can see what their financial position is. I think that's the bit that turns this whole kind of change in the profession from, okay, well, we're just going to do things a bit more efficiently and maybe we'll be able to take on some more clients or make more money, to, wow, we're having a profound impact on a sector that is really important to the economy.
So true. I completely get that. And it's something really small you just said there that could really be a big impact is, could you have a chat with each of your clients about what they want on their dashboard? It's customizable. Just have that chat. When you open up Xero, what do you want to see first? What's most important to you? That's the first step to advisory, isn't it? It's what are the numbers that are important to you? What is it that matters most when you go in there, or if they ever even go in there, but if they do, and that's the thing, hold their hand to make sure that when they open it up, they're seeing what they need to see to be able to make their business decision that they need to make at that time. And we talk about this as well, moving away from transactional to transformational. No one cares how many transactions you've had to reconcile. No, that's not giving anyone any support or help in their business. What they want to know is, what's it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean for this Christmas? What does it mean? How much money can I take out of the business? Can I take on that next member of staff, or have I got to work all the way through the Christmas period? Or those are the kind of conversations we need to be having. Not
and I'd urge bookkeepers especially to be more confident in the kind of knowledge and skills that they possess and the influence that they can wield over small businesses, and in a super positive way. Because most people running a small business don't know what they don't know, right? They don't know what targets they should be setting themselves or what they should be reporting on. So yeah, like have the confidence to, go and have those conversations with clients, and it'll be good for them and it'll be good for you as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ian, thank you so much for your time today. I've thoroughly enjoyed getting to know the person behind the business, behind the software. I think it's really important, and I love that our conversation has gone back to, when I'm in Xero Partner Advisory Council meetings, we're talking about, like, we're definitely looking forward, all the new things that are coming up. And we have to keep remembering that there are new bookkeepers, new accountants that are training all the time. There are new business owners all the time. There are business owners that have been running for years that have never looked at software and how it can impact their daily life. And we have this at our fingertips. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. Is there anything, how do people connect with you if they want to, learn more from you?
So grab me on LinkedIn, I think is your best bet. So it's Ian Phillips with a double L. You should be able to find me pretty easily.
Excellent. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the Bookkeepers Podcast.
Thanks, Joe.